Here is me Rukshanda Slim, roll number 51. I am doing BS Chemistry from Government Postgraduate Islamia College, Kuchawala. The topic which I will discuss today is evolutionary perspective of protozoa. What is evolution? Charles Darwin was a British naturalist who proposed a theory of biological evolution by natural selection. Darwin defined evolution as descent with modification, the idea that species change over time, give rise to new species, and share a common ancestor. Now I will move toward the main topic, protozoa. Protozoa is an informal term for a group of single-celled eukaryotes, either free-living or parasitic, which feed on organic matter such as other microorganisms or organic tissues and debris. The most abundant and important fossil protozoans are the foraminiferans. Ancient members of the archaea were the first living organism on this planet. Archaea gave rise to the kingdom Protista. Some Protists are plant-like because they are primarily autotroph, and others are animal-like because they are primarily heterotrophic. Evolution and paleontology. Protists were a dominant form of life on Earth about 1.5 billion years ago, while protozoans evolved early and have survived to the present day as unicellular organisms. They have undoubtedly undergone considerable evolutionary change that many species must have become extinct, as others appear can be deduced from the limited fossil record of protozoans. Extinct fossil foraminiferan species, for example, number around 34,000, while there are only about 4,000 described living species. The poor fossil record of protozoans has hampered attempts at unraveling the complexities of their evolution. Modern biochemical and electron microscopy techniques, however, are providing evidence for new affinities between groups and are elucidating possible evolutionary pathways. Comparisons of flagellar structures, mitochondria, and nuclear and plastid characteristics in conjunction with ribosomal RNA sequences are unraveling the evolutions of various taxa. The ancestral eukaryote organism is thought to have been an amoeboid creature that relied on anaerobic or microaerophilic metabolism. The flagellates gradually evolved different ways of life and their structure became modified accordingly. As phagotrophs that ingested bacteria for food, they in some cases came to establish symbiotic association with photosynthetic species, and ultimately the endosymbionts became plastids within the cell. Some of the flagellates came to depend entirely on photosynthesis and to abandon heterotrophy completely, though many still retain both heterotrophic and autotrophic nutrition as mixotrophs. The process of parasitism probably arose in several independent cases. The trypanosomes, for example, evolved from free-living forms, adapting to life in the alimentary canal of primitive invertebrates during late Precambrian times. They evolved with their host, becoming symbionts in a wide variety of invertebrates, including annelids, nematodes, and molluscs. It was in the insects, however, that they underwent their most extensive evolutionary explosion into two groups. At this stage, they were transmitted from insect to insect by resistances passed in the feces and digested by subsequent hosts. The life cycle of trypanosoma is shown here. Now I will move toward the apicomplexans. The apicomplexans, which also inhibit the blood of vertebrates at some stage in their life cycle, probably evolved from a basal primitive stock seen today as the gregarians. The life cycle of apicomplexan is shown here. Now I discuss the endosymbiotic theory. It is thought that life arose on Earth around 4 billion years ago. The endosymbiotic theory states that some of the organelles in today's eukaryotic cells were once prokaryotic microbes. Evidence for this is based on the following. Chloroplasts are the same size as prokaryotic cells, divide by binary fission, and like bacteria have FTS protein. Mitochondria and chloroplast have their own DNA that is cellular, not linear. Mitochondria and chloroplast have their own ribosomes that have 30S and 50S subunits. Several more primitive eukaryotic microbes such as Giardia and Trichomonas have a nuclear membrane but not mitochondria. Although evidence is less convincing, it is also possible that flagella and cilia may have come from the spirochetes. Parallel evolution of mitochondria and plastid. the ancestors of both organelles were prokaryotes with non-reduced genomes encoding around 5,000 genes. The lower part of the figure shows that parallels between the retained genes in mitochondria and plastid. Organelle encoded genes are colored brown for mitochondria and green for plastids. Cytoplasm of protozoan. The cytoplasm of a protozoan is differentiated into two regions. The portion of the cytoplasm just beneath the pellicle is called ectoplasm, while the inner cytoplasm called the endoplasm. The ectoplasm is relatively clear and firm, while the endoplasm is usually granular and more fluid. The structure is shown here. Contractile vacuole of protozoan. Contractile vacuoles remove the excess water. In some protozoa, contractile vacuole formed by the coalescence of smaller vacuoles. In others, the vacuoles are permanent organelles that collecting tubules radiating into the cytoplasm field. Contractile vacuole of protozoan is shown here. Food vacuole of protozoan. Most protozoa absorb dissolved nutrients by active transport or ingest whole or particulate food through endocytosis. Some protozoa ingest food in a specialized region analogous to a mouth called cytopharynx. After digestion is complete, the vacuoles are called egestion vacuoles. They release their contents by exocytosis, sometimes at a specialized region of the plasma membrane or pellicle called the cytophage. Gas exchange and excretion in protozoan. Because protozoa are small, they have a large surface area in proportion to their volume. This high surface area to volume ratio facilitates two other maintenance functions, that is gas exchange and excretion. Gas exchange involves acquiring oxygen for cellular respiration and eliminating the carbon dioxide produced as a byproduct. The respiratory surface of an unicellular organism is through plasma membrane. Excretion is the elimination of the nitrogenous byproducts of protein metabolism, which in protozoa are mostly ammonia. Diagram is given below. Evolutionary tree. Evolutionary tree is a branching diagram or tree showing the evolutionary relationships among various biological species or other entities. Their phylogeny based upon similarities and differences in their physical or genetic characteristics. Protist phylogeny. Protists are single-celled organisms but don't have much else in common. Protists are polyphyletic, meaning that they develop from more than one ancestral lineage. A generalized evolutionary tree showing the major events and possible lines of descent for their protozoa.